Hi, my name is Jenny and I'm back today to show you how to use a set of clippers. So today I'm going to be using a wall designer clipper. They're pretty universal, so everything that you see in this kit should come with yours. You should get some sort of a small brush. This brushes out the hair from the blades when you're done using it. You should use this after every haircut. You should get a set of oil. You just do a few drops and you're going to put it in between the blades. And I would hold it over a garbage can or a sink while you do it. And you're going to, if you turn them on, the oil is going to drip through and you might see some hair falling out between. If there's a lot of hair in between, you need to take these two screws off and take the blades apart. Do it very carefully over a surface like a towel because there are multiple pieces in there and you want to be able to put it back together the same way you found it. And you should have a comb. Any comb will do. Wider combs might be easier for you to use. Smaller combs are easier to get around the ears. You're going to have a set of guards. Anything between an 8 and a 1 is likely to come with your kit. An 8 leaves 1 inch of hair left on your head. A 6 is 3/4 of an inch. You go down to a 4. My kit does not come with a 5. Some do, some don't. A 4 is a 1/2 of an inch of hair on your head. A 3 is 3/8 of an inch. 2 is 1/4 of an inch. And you have a 1, which is 1/8 of an inch. If you would like shorter than that, you go with no guard at all. And then you also want to make sure your blades are aligned when they're on true to size. So if you put a guard on and your blades are touching, say you put a 4 guard on, you're using a 4. If you flip this toggle here, you'll see that the blades separate and they get further apart. We sometimes call that a 1/2. So it can be used in blending, or it can be used just to leave a little bit of extra length on that under the guard or without a guard. So you have your blades touching, you have a 0, and you have a 1/2 when they're separated, and then it would go up to a 1. For the purposes of a home haircut, I would not recommend going below a 2 because it's going to be really hard for you to blend. Unless you have experience doing so. So for the purposes of this home haircut, I'm going to be using a 3 and a 2 for my bottom section fade. And I will use a 4 to connect into the top. And then I'm going to show you also if you wanted to shave your entire head on the top section, you would use a number 8. And we're going to buzz all of this off with an 8, and then we're going to connect it down progressively 8, 6, 4, 3, and 2. So let's get started. So to start, I'm just going to do the bottom section first to show everyone how the clipper motion works, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to take off the top and connect it. So I'm going to be starting with my number 3. Put the top of the blades, depending on your clipper set, put the top of the blades in first and make sure it clicks. So I have to draw an imaginary line through my head going from the top of the ears around the back. You can choose how much of an angle you want this to drop down, or if you want it to be flat, if you want it to be really high. It's more of a military buzz. It's going to give you a little bit more room to blend if you stay on the lower side. So remember, this is not for forever. This is for a couple more weeks, hopefully until your salon is open. So drawing my imaginary line here above the ears, I'm going in and I'm going to be doing a scooping motion in the bottom, and then I'm going to follow through and I'm going to continue vertically. As I follow through, I want to make sure my blade stays vertical along the head. So wherever the back of the head leaves off here, I want to follow through with that. It's going to pull some of these hairs into it and give you a natural taper. So scooping and then following through in a vertical pathway. And you'll notice that I'm holding my clippers with my thumb in the center. It gives me a lot more control over the C shaping that I'm creating, rather than holding them off to the side. Also, if you hold them off to the side, you might accidentally toggle your switch and create a half longer length on those pieces. So make sure your guard is at a true 0. The blades are closed. I'm at a 3, and I'm going to follow through vertically. I'm going to do this all the way around the head. When you get to the sides and you're going around the ears, you're going to need to do some carving and changing of directions because everyone's hair grows in different patterns. You might also need to do that in the back, depending on your cowlicks. Okay, when you're going around the ears, you want to make sure that only the bottom blades are touching and these are angled out away from the head. So I have space for my fingers in between. If you go in flat, you're going to get a really hard line here, and that defeats the purpose of this vertical motion we're doing to create a little extra length here. So you'll see that just doing a follow through is giving me a more squared off shape rather than following the round of the head. So it's naturally blending itself. So vertical follow through. Don't worry about all of these longer pieces on top. We're coming back for them. And your hair is probably also not this long. If you've been going to the hairdresser before you were quarantined, your hair has probably not grown this much yet. If I want to try to capture some of those longer hairs, I can comb down while I pull the clippers through. As long as I'm still going through that vertical pathway. Not angling into the head. We don't want to do that yet. It's just going to capture some of those really long hairs on the very top. Because they're probably feeling like they're in your way. I'll cut them off so you can see better. Okay, so now we have a 3 all the way around the back and a natural taper here. I'm going to switch to my number 2. And I'm going to go through an invisible line in the bottom section. So if I'm dividing the section that I just cut in about half. You could choose to go further if you want, but again, it gives you less space for blending. So try to keep it on the lower side. And again, you can make this an angle or you can make this flat, depending on your preference. You can also choose to go in front of the ear through the sideburn, or you can just do the nape of the neck. It's all based on personal preference. So you'll see, compared to what I just cut off, next to nothing is going to come off with a 2. The difference between the 2 and the 3 is so similar. It's just a really soft blend. It's also really tricky to cut the bottom hairline of a doll head. It's very thick and stubborn. This motion that I'm doing, you might notice, is different than the follow-through method. When we're blending a section, we're gonna make a C shape. So you're scooping in at the bottom and you're scooping out when you get to your imaginary line. So following my C shape, I'm gonna pull away. It's very important that you pull away rather than follow through, otherwise you're gonna take all of this shorter and shorter. So the C shape is very important. So make sure you try that and practice it in the air. Don't try it on the hair because it will pull if the clippers are not running. Again, going around the ear if I'd like to, make sure you leave space in those top blades to avoid creating a harsh line. Really small C motions. On your client, you fold the ear down and go in behind the ear in a tiny C shape, scooping. You can go in at any angle around the back to make sure you pick up all the cowlick hairs. All the hairs that are growing in strange directions. Leaving space. The scooping motion is very important. Pull the ear down while you're working there. If you're working on a younger client, you might want to hold their head still so they don't move. So you can see there is no disconnect between my 3 and my 2 because they're such similar lengths in the guard. It gives just enough of a soft taper without having to worry about doing too much blending, which is our goal for a home haircut. We don't want to have any lines to worry about. And we want it to be as fast and easy as possible. We want you to be successful at this time. If you would like to go shorter, you're going to have to go back in to connect your longer length and your shorter length. You're going to flip this toggle to make a half, and you're going to go into the line that you create, and you're going to take tiny C shapes. So if I had a line here, I'm doing my half, and I'm doing my little scooping shapes all the way around that line that was created by the shorter length and the longer length meeting. So if the length on top was not crazy long like this doll's, if it was a shorter length haircut, it would already be connected, and that might be all you need to do. If you need to do more, you would take a longer guard, a 4 or a 6, and you're going to connect. Make sure you switch back to the flat. You're going to connect by scooping out some of the corner that we've created. So this is if you don't want to just take an 8 to the top of your head and buzz, or shorter than that. You're going to go through and take your corner. You might need a comb to keep pulling everything down. Your hair is very tingly. Just coming in, following this corner slightly just to soften. So just softening the corner and trying to take off some of that extreme length on top that makes it look kind of square. So we're just rounding out the top edge. If you have any cowlicks or anything back in these corners, you want to make sure to not get too close to them. You don't want to take them too short, or they might stick up like alfalfa. So just rounding the corners slightly. This is a very soft, careful motion. You don't want to take off too much hair. You can always take off more, but you can't put it back. A little bit of a cowlick in here, so I might have to go different directions to cover all of the hair. If you're not capturing the hair by traveling vertically, you have to follow against the pattern of growth. So this doll has been laying in the closet for a while, so all the hair is patterned to go this way. So I have to cut against it to get anything to remove. So you'll see I just angle my clippers as I follow through. A lot of people have cowlicks in this back corner of their head. and you'll do the same against the growth. And just taking off a little bit in the corner. So instead of doing a true vertical, just a soft angle, not quite a 45, less than that. So a little bit of a follow through to really soften out that edge. This length on top is still extreme, but I'm going to be shaving this doll down further than this, just to show you if you're doing more. So, ignoring this top section here, if we use that rounding, we take away a lot of that square corner. That could be all you need. So we have a 6 on this corner here, and a 3 and a 2. And look at this cool dude. You could do a little pompadour or something with this fun length. But if you want to keep going, this is the easiest way. Again, if you have any really strong cowlicks and you take off a lot of that length on the cowlick, you might get a really stubborn pop-up. So this step is to be done at your own risk. It's going to leave 1 inch of hair left on top of your head. So you're going to be going against the growth pattern, and you're going to be following the round of your head. So I'm going to follow through, which is what we told you not to do earlier. So this is my 8, and I'm going to follow through the round of the head. And I'm going to go against any growth pattern that I see. And you can hold the clippers different directions depending on what feels comfortable for that section of the head, how tall your client is. If you're doing your own hair, you're obviously going to hold your clippers differently. So following through along that part line. And I have to take a couple passes, make sure you get it all nice and even. And if we were in some kind of a cool movie for quarantine, this would be the quarantine cut. Shave the head and leave the front. Super styling. But, goodbye. Goodbye, hair. So if I were doing this full haircut on myself at home, doing an 8 down to a 6 and a 3 and a 2, what I would do first is this step. 8, take everything off down to 1 length. And then I would create my imaginary line where I would do my 6, and then I would go through in my 3, and then I would go through in my 2. So I recommend working your way down from the longest length to the shortest length, because that is what's easiest to do at home if you're not trained as a barber. If you go to a barber shop, you'll notice that they do shortest length first and they leave a really hard line. That is so that they can visualize and make sure it's a perfect line and perfect shape. But for the purposes of doing a home haircut, you're going to get a much softer blend if you start with the longer length first. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you feel more comfortable using your clippers, holding them. Remember, when you're done with them, you need to brush out any of the hair in between the blades, in the little pockets on the sides, and you need to use oil in between the blades. Try to do that after every use so that they last you a lot longer. And if you have any questions, make sure you comment and I'll try to respond to you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay safe to everyone, and book an appointment as soon as your salon opens, and support your hairstylists and your barbers. Thanks. Take care.